Welcome back to the show where we give you all the Dolphins news you need to know about. If you like that, go check out the channel. We have tons and tons of Dolphins content for you guys. Remember, this podcast posts on YouTube each and every single Sunday. So if you like that, please support the channel in any way you possibly can. And this first news story, the Dolphins have revealed their first depth chart. Now, I could not find an official full depth chart for some reason. Couldn't find it on the Dolphins official website. I could only find notes of the depth chart that are important. So these are all the important things that happened with the depth chart. The rookies are going to this comes from the Palm Beach Post. The rookies are going to have to work their way up the depth chart. Safety Minkah Fitzpatrick is second string behind TJ McDonald. Tight end Mike Gesicki is fifth string, and Durham Smythe is sixth string. Linebacker Jerome Baker is second string behind Kiko Alonso. Now this first one's interesting. It also notes that Mike Gesicki has been taking most of the first team reps. So it's weird that he is the fifth on the depth chart. Very odd. Maybe they just want him to earn it, work a little bit harder. But he has been taking most of the first team reps in training camp. And Minkah is a second string. Maybe it's the same kind of thing. They want him to continue to work hard and not just give it to him so early. Because both of those players have been outplaying their competition, in my opinion. Especially since all the things that we've come to find out through training camp. So again, this is the depth chart, and these are all the notes that you need to know about. Again, for some reason, I could not find the entire thing. This next noteworthy thing, David Fales and Brock Osweiler are listed as co-second teamers, though Fales is listed ahead of Osweiler. That is interesting. I know he had a bounce back day on the scrimmage, which we're going to get into later in the show. But he has not been playing well at all. Neither one of the two have been playing particularly well. But I think Fales hasn't thrown 5 picks in 2 days. So I would be giving it to Fales if I were Adam. Kenyon Drake this is the next one. Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore are listed as co-starters, though Drake is ahead of Gore. This really doesn't matter, in my opinion, because we're going to be rotating backs anyway, so I think it's going to be depending on the personnel of the defense, to be honest with you. Albert in situations. Albert Wilson is listed as a second teamer behind Kenny Stills. That's interesting, I guess. It's not really surprising, but it is interesting. Where are we going to play him? There have been rumors that, I think Adam actually said this, that he's going to be playing more on the outside than in the slot. It's going to be interesting to see how he's utilized, although Adam's also said, and Albert has said this too, Adam does a good job of moving people around. So it's going to be interesting to see where he primarily plays in this offense, that's for sure. Because that, to me, is a little bit of an unknown. It's a little vague. But it doesn't surprise me that he's behind Kenny. Jordan Phillips and Devon Gotchar are listed as co-starters, though Phillips is listed as first. Obviously, we play two defensive tackles, so that doesn't really matter. And obviously, we're going to be rotating defensive linemen. So basically, those are your starting defensive tackles, Devon Gotchar and Jordan Phillips, so far this offseason as the first depth chart. Stephon Anthony is a starting linebacker, backed up by Terrence Garvin. Raekwon McMillan is a starter, backed up by Chase Allen. That's interesting that Stephon Anthony has climbed his way up. Although Jerome Baker does not play the same position as Stephon, which is interesting. So the Dolphins, I don't know if they're comparing the two. Obviously, Terrence Garvin is backing him up and not Jerome Baker. Jerome Baker is backing up Kiko Alonso. That's an interesting starting linebacker core, but it doesn't surprise me. He's a vet player. Apparently he's been, playing better throughout camp so far. I'm not going to say it's disappointing because Jerome is a young player, but he'll eventually see his playing time. And he might be a sub-package guy, gets on in different situations in the game, especially in nickel defense. This next one, Miami Dolphins third-string linebackers are Mike Hull, Quentin Poling, and Frank Ginda. So that's interesting. Quentin Poling, hopefully, will make the team as a special teams player. Mike Hull, has always been a pretty good special teams player for us. Chase Allen backing up Raekwon is interesting because he's had a pretty good offseason and he's growing, and he had a good rookie year too. He was undrafted for an undrafted free agent. He had a pretty good rookie season. This next one, Andre Branch is listed as a third-team defensive end behind Cameron Wake, Robert Quinn, William Hayes, and Charles Harris. And again, that really doesn't matter because we're going to be rotating a lot, but that basically is who you're going to see on the first series of the game, basically. So you're going to see Cam Wake, Robert Quinn probably, and then a mixture of William Hayes, Charles Harris, and Andre Branch. This next one, Miami, this is a really interesting one. Miami's top tight ends are Marquise Gray, AJ Derby, Gavin Escobar, Thomas Durante, Mike Gesicki, and Durham Smythe. So there is your tight ends in order. And again, Mike Gesicki's been taking most of the first team reps anyway. This next one, Xavier Howard and Bobby McCain are listed as cornerback starters. Cordrea Tankersley and Torrey McTyer are listed as second teamers. One will likely start. Tony Lippett is a third teamer to start the preseason. It's crazy. So Xavier Howard and Bobby McCain are listed as your... So that doesn't mean Bobby's going to be playing... I wouldn't think that means Bobby's going to play on the outside. I would say he's the slot corner. And then starting next to X is either Cordrea or Torrey, because those are both listed as second teamers. I would say Torrey because he's having a better offseason than Cordrea, and Torrey has got more reps with the ones than Cordrea has. So I guess here's your starting secondary. Your number one corner is Xavier. Your two is outside corner is Torrey, and your slot is Bobby. So there you go. This next one, Jason Sanders is the first team kicker ahead of Greg Joseph. That doesn't surprise anyone. Top punters are punt returners, are Jakeem Grant, Danny Amendola, and Albert Wilson. Doesn't surprise anyone. Top kickoff returners, Jakeem Grant, Sonoris Perry, and Albert. Can we please take Sonoris Perry off the kickoff? Every time I see him on the kickoff team, it's pretty bad. I don't think I've ever really seen him even when he's blocking, he always gets hurt. I don't know. I just feel like he's not a good... We can't find anybody else. This next one, Kalen Ballage is the fourth string running back behind Sonoris Perry. That's surprising, but again, Kalen didn't have a great scrimmage. Neither did any of the running backs, really. I think the defensive line really got the best of the offensive line again. So I'm not going to really blame that on Kalen, but I think he's had a pretty good camp. So that's interesting. Maybe it's another rookie thing. Adam just wants him to earn it. Let's see here. Third wide receivers, Deontay Curry, Drew Morgan, Rashawn Scott. For the fourth team receivers, Francis Owusu and Malcolm Lewis. I know there's a lot of Rashawn Scott fans out there. Hopefully Deontay Curry can finally turn into something. And obviously Francis Owusu had a really good preseason for us last year. This is very interesting. Isaiah Ford is listed as the second string Dolphins receiver alongside Jakeem Grant and Albert Wilson. That's great news for us. Isaiah Ford didn't even play a down last year, and he's already beating out people that have had significant playing time in the NFL, and he hasn't played a down in the National Football League. So that says a lot about his ability and how much room he has to grow. Without playing a down in the NFL and beating out some of those seasoned players is pretty impressive. It's very, very impressive. This next one, Zach Sturp is the second string left tackle. Nobody cares. There you go. There's your most notable things from the Miami Dolphins depth chart. I would say a lot of it is deceptive. I would say my takeaways is I would expect even though Mike is listed down the depth chart, he's been outplaying everybody on that list. Same thing with Minka. I guarantee you he's going to be a starter. Kalen's going to be higher than fourth string. He's definitely going to win. You think Kalen is going to lose to Sonoris Perry? That's not going to happen. So I think there's a little funkiness going around in there, especially you can see it's deliberately towards the rookies too. It's not just some of these veteran players. So yeah, in terms of veteran surprises, it doesn't really surprise me. So I think the biggest takeaway is the linebackers. As of right now, your linebackers are Kiko, Raekwon, and Stephon, and I think that's legit. I don't think there's any funkiness going. I think that's a legitimate. Those are the three best linebackers so far in camp. So that's going to be interesting to see if that changes. I don't think it will. So the only thing that I think is really set in stone is the quarterback position and the linebackers. The corners are interesting just because I think Bobby's still going to be the slot. I think that would be the smartest thing. And Torrey, I think, is definitely going to be your number two, which I think surprises everybody. And Tony Lippett being a third-teamer doesn't surprise me. He's still kind of getting out of the haze of his injury. And I don't think he's quite 100% yet. This next news story is really fun. This comes from Dolphins Wire. Dolphins quarterback Ryan Tannehill expects to play in preseason opener against the Buccaneers. If you don't know when this game starts, because I know the schedule can be confusing, it's on August 9th. It's at Hard Rock Stadium. It's a Thursday night game. So get your popcorn ready because this one's going to be fun. So the Dolphins expect Tannehill to play. He said, quote, this is what Tannehill had to say about it. I'm excited to get back out there and play some real football. Tannehill said after Saturday's practice. As the spring has gone on and training camp has gone on, every step is feeling good as far as getting prepared for the season. The last time Tannehill appeared in a game was on December 11th, 2016. We know against the Cardinals on that day, Tannehill sprained his ACL as he missed the Dolphins' last 4 games of the 2016 season. Then last year, Tannehill suffered a season-ending ACL injury during a training camp practice. Don't expect Tannehill to play a lot against the Buccaneers. He might play 2 series at the most. As the preseason goes along, Tannehill should get more snaps, and especially during the Dolphins' dress rehearsal Week 3 preseason game against the Ravens, August 25th. I'm really happy that our dress rehearsal game is against the Ravens because that's a really well-coached, well-drafted football team. And I think that's a good dress rehearsal to get us ready for the regular season, especially since it's a defense that Tannehill has not done great against, and our offensive line has really struggled against that defensive line for a very long time now. So it's going to be interesting to see that game. But talking specifically towards this one, this is interesting. You know, it's going to be really fun to see him out there for the first time. And it's so close. I mean, it's this week. It's this Thursday. I'm super excited about it. Here's what I want to tamper down expectations. Don't expect him to go out there and throw 2 touchdowns on both drives. This is his first real game action in 2 years, almost 3 years, which is ridiculous. So, I mean, obviously there's going to be some rust. That's what preseason is for, is to get back into game shape. So I won't expect anything special, but it's going to be fun to see number 17 out there against a pretty decent Buccaneers defense that's been having apparently a good camp, whatever that's worth. So it's going to be fun to see him out there. I'm just so happy about it. I think whether you like him or not, I think everybody's going to be intrigued about it just because he was 7-1 the last time he was the starter for this Dolphins team, which is ridiculous. And he was playing the best football of his career. So it's going to be very, very exciting. But again, I want to tamper down expectations. This is not a finished product. This is not the best Tannehill you're going to see, obviously. I mean, he hasn't played in forever. So I think I'm just trying to water down as much as possible. But it is obviously this is valuable time for him. Let's go to this next news story. This is an embarrassment to every Dolphins fan out there. This comes from Dolphins Wire again, MVP of the offseason so far in terms of Dolphins news. Dolphins quarterback Brock Osweiler believe he has had, quote, this is a quote, and I'm not even lying to you guys, quote, I've had a tremendous camp. Oh my God. He said this, okay, here we go. One of the few bright spots of Saturday's scrimmage was the play of Dolphins quarterback Brock Osweiler, who had a perfect afternoon. Osweiler completed all 7 of his passes for 50 yards and a touchdown pass to Drew Morgan. After the scrimmage was over, Osweiler was asked about his, quote, hiccups during training camp, and the 7th-year veteran doesn't believe he's had setbacks. He said, quote, I'm not really sure what hiccups you're talking about, to be honest with you, but I feel like I've had a tremendous camp. I'm very confident in the system. Throughout camp, Osweiler has struggled with accuracy and inconsistency as he's thrown multiple interceptions during first 9 practices. So, this is a frustrating one. I mean, dude, I don't understand Brock. I get it. And listen, I'm not saying anybody's confidence has to be, like, destroyed or anything like that. I mean, he's a quarterback, for God's sake. It's the hardest position out there. But, I mean, for God, you can't throw all these picks and then be like, yeah, I had one good day. I think I've had a tremendous camp. I mean, at least be a little self-aware, for God's sake. It just frustrated me. He said the same thing last year in Cleveland, and he couldn't beat out Deshaun Kaiser, for God's sakes. And they had traded him away to... who did he take? Or they cut him and then Denver signed him? I can't even remember. But if you can't play for Cleveland, man, there's issues, especially on that quarterback roster last year. It's just frustrating. But, you know, this brings me to the real topic and the reason I put this in the docket here. Because the offense is worrying me a little bit. Now, granted, this was not a legitimate scrimmage. I don't think there was any live tackling. So, the fact that Osweiler completed all... Yeah, because there's no real threat of this man getting his head decapitated. And there's no real threat of any kind of real danger at all. But anyway, the point is... it does worry me. The offense has really struggled throughout training camp so far, and they did not do anything. I mean, Tannehill threw a 40-yard bomb to Gesicki on 7-on-7 drills. That's not real football. He had one rollout for, I think, a good 25-yard gain, and maybe even more than that, to be honest with you, on a bootleg where Tannehill just took off. So it was nice to see him, get his feet wet in that way. But the offense so far has been, it's been very pedestrian, to say the least. So hopefully we see better things in preseason games, because preseason is the summer league. If you're familiar with basketball, it's basically, listen, man, these are all your young players. It doesn't matter if you win or lose the game, obviously. I just want to see progression with some of these young players, and I want to see some talented people. Last year's people that were talented and that were young, talented players that were, showed up was Jakeem Grant, Francis Owusu, Torrey McTyer, Quadria Tankersley. They all had really good preseason. So hopefully we see some more young players. I'm definitely expecting Kalen Ballage. I'm just saying I hope we see an uptick in offense throughout preseason, because so far, from what I've been reading, it's kind of disappointing. And it does frustrate me because, again, this is the kind of stuff that we've went through before, and I just don't want this to be. But again, to me, I mean, obviously you're trying to get better every single day, but I do want to see improvements Thursday. And I'm not just from the first team. The first team doesn't even have to score a touch. I just want to see some kind of a life from this offense, because it is worrying me a little bit. All right, this next news story, if I could talk. Dolphins quarterback Ryan Tannehill continues to showcase mobility despite bulky knee brace. This is a quick one. This is exactly what I just said. The Miami Dolphins offense needed a spark after going 3-and-out in their first series of Saturday's scrimmage. So Adam Gase went off to his old reliable plays. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill lined up under center, fake handoff to tailback Kenyon Drake, and sprinted to the right side of the field, which was wide open because of the effectiveness of the naked bootleg he had just executed to perfection. As defenders closed in on Miami's starting quarterback, who missed the past 20 games because of a left knee injury, Tannehill waved off an open Marquise Gray, instructing the tight end to block a safety downfield. Tannehill then turned on the afterburners to gain 16 rushing yards, delivering the first down of the scrimmage. It was just one play, something Tannehill has probably executed 100 times during college and NFL games in his career. But the fact, the movement plays, bootleg play action plays, quarterback sprints, and read options are in Miami Dolphins' arsenal, because Tannehill can still execute them after his injuries is refreshing, because the mobile version of Tannehill is the best version of him. The reason I brought this up is I don't know why everybody's so worried. Listen, reoccurring injuries, I guess, I get it. I get why they're worried, and especially since we have zero backups. And it does frustrate me seeing Lamar Jackson in the Hall of Fame games. Like, dude, we couldn't draft some young quarterback. I mean, my God, dude, we got David. It's frustrating, but the point is, it's good to hear this. And, people forget, we're in a different time. This is in the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s. If you tear your ACL, yeah, it's devastating, but it's not the end of the world. Deshaun Watson has went through 3 or 4 ACL injuries, and on Thursday Night Football ran for, a 50-yard rushing touchdown, and obviously Adrian Peterson, who badly tore his knee up, and then the next year rushes for 2,000 yards. So it's a different time we're living in, and medicine is obviously better than it's ever been. So it's just a little weird that everybody's so weirded out by it. But here you go, man. This is a perfect example. Tannehill's his athletic ability is still there, which is should be a big part of his game, and it always has been. And I hope, I was watching some old 2016 games, and there was a couple of plays where I was like, I hope we utilize that more, because it's the old Aaron Rodgers thing, and that's something they actually practice in training camp, is backyard football, is where when, broken plays where Aaron Rodgers breaks the pocket and then they start moving around. People forget, they watch that and say, oh, that's normal in the NFL in a quarterback. No, it's not. Teams, not just the quarterback, suck at executing that. Most of the teams in the NFL are not good at that when a quarterback breaks the pocket. The only few teams that are the Seahawks. I would say the Seahawks, Packers, not even the Eagles really, because I couldn't give you 50 plays from the Eagles where Carson breaks the pocket. I mean, he does do it. I'm not saying he doesn't, but I would say the teams that excel at it at a high level are Seattle and Green Bay. And that's something that we need to add into our arsenal, because in years past when Tannehill does break the pocket, it's so messy. It's not where it needs to be. But in 2016, there were great examples of when Tannehill broke the pocket, where we showed some of that backyard football and a lot of crucial plays throughout that season. So that is something that needs to continue to be a big part of Tannehill's game. He needs to be cognizant of that. He needs to understand when you break the pocket, and the team needs to be better at it. that it can only help your offense, and that needs to be a bigger part of his game. So if anybody was worried about that, there you go. There's your little reassurance. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire. Dolphins Ryan Tannehill and Mike Gesicki gaining chemistry with each other. Earlier this week, after A.J. Derby missed practice because of a foot injury, Mike Gesicki finally got his big opportunity. The Dolphins placed Gesicki on their first-team offense, and coaches and fans during training camp started to take notice when, during red zone drills this week, Gesicki and Ryan Tannehill began to gain natural chemistry with each other as the rookie caught a few touchdowns from the veteran quarterback. So obviously that's great news, and like I said, Mike is kicking everybody's tail in that tight end room, so it is a little weird that he isn't the starter, and he's way better than A.J. Derby. You don't just catch a few we haven't had a tight end catch a few touchdowns in red zone drills in years, and it's really good to see him and Tannehill. And Mike has said it. Mike is, I would say Mike's probably best friends with Tannehill and the entire team. They've had some funny interviews about each other over the last few weeks, so it's good to see them getting on the same page. And obviously they've been throwing after practice and stuff as well, as he always has done, Jarvis. So yeah, again, it's really nice to see them hitting it off so early. So that means that's nothing but good things, especially when the season starts for the two. And thank God we finally got a franchise tight end, because good Lord, I'm sick and tired. It's so important, and we've went over it in the past. It's so important for your franchise quarterback to have a tight end that plays on a high level. It's so very, very important. All the high level quarterbacks have it. Gronk, Brady, Jimmy Graham, and Aaron Rodgers in years past. Donald Driver for Aaron. The list goes on and on. Seattle with Zach Miller, and obviously Jimmy Graham. So the list goes on and on and on and on. You have to Peyton Manning and Dallas Clark. You could go on and on and on, and it's so very, very important for a quarterback to have a tight end. And even if you look at NFL history, I mean, Shannon Sharp and John Elway, Johnny Unitas, John Mackey, to name a few, Kellen Winslow and Dan Fouts. Something about a tight end, like a franchise caliber tight end and a franchise caliber quarterback, it's very, very important. So, and I think it has to do with red zone. I think tight ends they're just better utilized in the red zone because it's deceptive, especially if your tight end can block. I mean, they can do so many things in the goal line, whether that's blocking or dominating the guy in front of them. So, and they're obviously a lot bigger than corners. So it is super important to red zone production. Alrighty then, this next news story is about Charles Harris's dominant scrimmage, and this comes from Dolphins Wire. Charles Harris beat rookie tight end Mike Gesicki. He had 2 sacks on the same drive. He beat Mike Gesicki once on one of them. The other one, it was just a straight up. I think he probably beat Jawan or somebody like that, or something like that. Obviously, this is good news. If you could look at it one of two ways. I mean, the offense hasn't exactly been stellar. The offensive line hasn't exactly been great. So, I mean, again, you could look at it one of two ways, but it's really nice to see Charles Harris turning into the player we thought he would be. Cameron Wake called him, there's a quote here in this article, Cameron Wake said that he's had the best offseason out of any Dolphins player. That's high praise, especially since we have a lot of talented defensive linemen on this roster. So it's nice to see Charles Harris blossom into that player that, and again, Mike Gesicki, that's nothing. But, obviously having a sack and 2 sacks on the same drive, that's pretty good. But I do want to see this materialize. So, I mean, we've been through the rigmarole millions of times with different players that just never showed up on game day. So I do want to see this materialize. Hopefully we see some of these flashes in preseason. But it's really nice to see Charles Harris really start to take that next step. And again, you want to see that from year 1 to year 2 step. And I think Charles Harris is going to show us that. Jason Taylor has obviously been a huge fan of Charles Harris since he's been drafted here. He said that he has a super bright future as a Dolphin. So all of that is exciting stuff. So yeah. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire again. Torrey McTyer looking like a starter so far this offseason. Torrey McTyer has started with the first team in the first 8 days of training camp 4 times. Cordrea has started with the first team 3 times. Tony Lippett once. And I think What else? Hang on a second. Let me go down here. I can't remember how many times. No, that's all of them. Yeah. So again, this is obviously great news. Torrey McTyer had a tremendous preseason from a year ago, and he had a tremendous training camp too. And obviously, he's only beating Kadrea by 1, but again, this is why I think Torrey is going to be the starting. And again, Tony Lippett, to be determined. He's obviously still recovering. He's not 100% yet. But it's really nice to see one of our young corners play this well. It's really, really nice. I mean, we have really developed our young players well, and we've drafted well too, in my opinion. And we're definitely going to see that this preseason. But it's nice seeing an undrafted player like him continue to build off of his success. It's not like, okay, he had one good off season and he's fallen off. No, he is legitimately, so far, is the starting cornerback for us, and he played at a high level. He dominated his competition last year in preseason. He did it in training camp last year. He's continuing to do that this offseason. So obviously he has earned that starting spot. And he's a big, long corner with great athletic ability. And his ball skills are a little iffy. He dropped a few picks last year, but it's nice to see him continue to build off of that. I guess hopefully eventually become the starting cornerback for the Miami Dolphins. This next news story comes from Pro Football Talk. Dolphins list Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore as co-starters on the depth chart. This really means nothing, and again, we talked about this earlier in the show, but we're gonna rotate anyway. So again, I think it's gonna be based off of personnel and stuff of that nature, and down and distance and situational football. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire again, the MVP of the news for Dolphins content. Dolphins are giving linebacker Chase Allen an opportunity to start. For the second consecutive day, Chase Allen was out there with Raekwon McMillan and Kiko Alonso on the Dolphins' first-team defense. The Dolphins have a vacant starting spot on the outside linebacker spot. Allen is competing with Stephon Anthony and Jerome Baker for that position. After Thursday's practice, Dolphins linebackers coach Frank Bush said Allen has definitely proven he should get an opportunity to start. So that's great news. And that kind of contradicts the depth chart earlier because, and again, it says Stephon Anthony is the starter, but Chase Allen is also competing with Stephon Anthony, but he's also the backup linebacker middle linebacker to Raekwon McMillan. So he has a lot on his plate. He's playing two different positions. So, and Chase Allen is a talented player. He's had a better career so far than Stephon Anthony has had. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can beat him out. And obviously, I said I think that is a legitimate starting three linebacker: Stephon Anthony, Kiko Alonso, and obviously Raekwon McMillan. But who knows? Maybe Chase Allen can steal that outside linebacker spot from him, and that would be super interesting if he could do that. So yeah, it is just interesting. We have a lot. Again, our front office has drafted really, really well, and has accumulated a lot of young talent, especially from 2017 and obviously in 2016. We have a lot of promise on this roster, and I can't wait to see in preseason. I cannot wait to see some of these young players play, and that's an exciting feeling when you have a bunch of young talent on your, especially Kalen Ballot. There's so many young players. It's a very exciting. It's gonna be super fun preseason just in general. So. I think that is it for the news, ladies and gentlemen. I think that is it for the news. Let me make sure. Yep, that's it for the news. Hang on just a second. Yeah, that is it for the Dolphins news as of right now. So we're going to go into the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A. Hopefully, I haven't looked how many questions were submitted. Hopefully, you guys submitted a lot of them. All right, let's get into it. So 29 questions. That's not bad. We had a lot more last week, and again, I think we had a good week though to ask questions. Hopefully, we could beat the record from the first. If you guys aren't familiar with the fan Q&A, it's just a segment in the podcast that we do where you guys ask questions and I answer them. I probably should have said that at the first start of the show. Now that I think about it, because people who are listening 30 minutes into the show just listen to it right. Anyway. And again, I'm not going to ramble on. Let's get into the fan Q&A. This first question comes from Ryan Havoc. He says, I want to know your predictions on how the offensive starters will do stat-wise in the 2018 season. Man, that dude, I could sit here and talk about that. I could make an entire podcast just on that alone. So to make it short and sweet, I've said Tannehill is going to throw, I think, 35 or 30 plus, somewhere in there, 35, 32, 33, some 30 plus touchdowns this season. I think Mike Gesicki is going to have a really, I'm even more positive of that since we've seen. I mean, from all his production in the red zone since he's gotten here has been really good. So unless he gets in, hope to God nothing bad happens or something stupid happens. I think Tannehill is good for. I think that's good for at least 8 to 10 touchdowns his rookie season. So I think 30 plus touchdowns is a safe bet there. And I'll say 12 interceptions. Tannehill's averaged 12 picks his entire career, which is a really good number. Let's see here. Running back wise, I'm gonna say Kenyon goes for 1,000, just over 1,000 yards rushing. And receiving is going to be hard, but I would say 450 to 500 receiving yards. So he's going to have a lot of scrimmage yards. And again, I don't know if he'll hit that kind of production because of the rotation, but I really expect Kenyon to have a special season if he gets... And again, we have a lot of really talented players in that backfield, so that might be overkill just because of he has to share his snaps. But it has nothing to do with him individually. Frank Gore... I'm going to say he's our LeGarrette Blount of this season. I'm going to say he's going to rush for a lot of touchdowns in the red zone. I think you're going to see him a lot. I think you're going to see him a ton in the fourth quarter. Again, I think he's going to be our closer, power back kind of a guy. So I'll say his touchdowns, I'm going to say from 7 rushing to 10, somewhere in that area. Who else? I guess we should do receivers. A receiver. Who would be a good one to do? I guess DP, because he's going to be the hardest one to predict, but I'm going to say, I don't know, man, that's tough. I think a lot of the receiving yards are going to come from the running backs this season. I'm going to say, if somehow he does this, just over 1,000 yards receiving. He has the talent to do it. I'm not going to say he's going to have a lot of touchdowns just because of everybody else on the team. So I'm going to say 5 touchdowns and just over 1,000 yards receiving. I think is, I guess, the safest bet. So yeah, there's your predictions, Ryan. It's a little rough, This next question comes from George. He says, he says, hey man, George is fine. Calling him George. He says, I go by that at work. What do you think of Gase and his attitude toward good questions from the media? Recently, Armando Salguero asked about Albert Wilson and his position, and Gase was a bit disparaging. He seems to be haughty and comes off as he knows it all. Does that make you a bit upset as a fan, considering most of his moves last year were awful? Cutler, Thomas, for example. As a fan in any spot, you respect people that are able to be humble. I don't think it has anything to do with being humble. I mean, look at Bill Belichick, forgot. Look at all of the great coaches. Tom Landry, forgot. I mean, everybody was that way with the media, that was half decent at what they do. I don't think it has anything to do with that. The guy who's asking that, you're being criticized by these people every single week. These people say nothing but bad things about how you do your job wrong. So, of course, you're going to be a little bit... you're going to be a smart aleck, and especially towards Armando, who's the most smart aleck media member ever. So, no, I actually like that kind of swagger with my coach. I don't take it as cocky or as arrogant, and you're going to make your mistakes as a decision maker. I mean, you can't make every decision right. So it doesn't bother me. I like that in him. I think that's how you should treat the media as a head coach. They're not your friends. They're not your buddies. It's just a part of the job. And I've always loved how Bill Parcells handled it, how Bill Belichick handles it, Sean Payton handles it, how all these great coaches handle the media, because I think that is the best way of doing it. Because again, these people do nothing but crap on you every single week, and that's their job, is to be critics. So I think it's fair, to be honest with you, and I like it. It's entertaining, and I think that's how I would do it, especially talking to people who do say things like that about you every single week. So that's how I think about it. That's how I take it. That's how I look at it. Dane Barbie says predictions for Mike Gesicki. We just did that. I think probably, I don't know about yards or receptions, but I can't tell you. I think he's definitely going to be in 10 plus touchdown area. JFG says, which current free agent do you think we should sign? I don't have a list in front of me right now. I know DRC is still out there, but we don't need him. Jonathan Hankins, I don't think we need him. There's not a lot of really good. There's not a lot of good free. I mean, Des Bryant's out there, but he doesn't fit the locker room. And I think we have enough receivers. I just don't think there's a good free agent for the Dolphins out there. This next question comes from Chris. He says, "What do you think? What do you think are going to be our starting cornerbacks?" Me personally, I want Tony Lippett. I think you're gonna. I mean, the offseason is a long one, and the preseason is long, so anything can change. And like I said, Tony is still recovering, but I think it's as far as things are going right now, I would not be surprised if Torrey was your starting outside cornerback. And again, Tony has he's a vet, so I wouldn't be surprised if he took it back, or Cordrea took it either. I wouldn't be surprised. It's really up in the air, to be honest with you. This next question comes from Cullen Klein. He says, what are the odds we sweep the entire division? Tyrod is gone, and we don't know who is starting week 1 for the Jets. So as long as Bridgewater doesn't start, we should be fine. And all we have to do is beat the Pats in Foxborough, something we haven't done since 2008. What are the chances we sweep the entire division? Man, I think Buffalo is going to be a lot easier since Tyrod's not their starter. And I do agree with that. I don't think it's going to be nowhere near as hard. I think we can key in on the running game. Our rush lanes don't have to be disciplined at all. I mean, there's not a super athlete. They don't have a Tyrod Taylor. I mean, Tyrod is a really, really good open field runner. I mean, he's super talented when it comes to that. There's not a lot of people in the NFL that are that good in the open field. So I think Buffalo is going to be easier. The hardest games are going to be the Jets because they have a good defense, and the Patriots, obviously beating them in Foxborough will be difficult. But I'll say the toughest games and the things that I think the odds are pretty good, but I think the games that we're going to have the most trouble with is in MetLife and in Foxborough. I think those are going to be some tough games. Even though Tannehill always plays like super well against the Jets when it comes to in MetLife Stadium. He's always had good games in MetLife. This next question comes from Cullen Klein. He says, how do you think Matt Burke will utilize Fitzpatrick I don't know, man. Week 1. I hope he does it right and not wrong. I think it really hurts your young players' development to be like, hey, dude, you want to start at all these different positions even though you have never started on the professional level before. I think it's very, and again, Minka's a special player and he's a special person, so he's one of the few that could do it, but it's like, come on, man. If we're going to get the best out of the kid year 1, how about just tell him he's playing free safety? And I think that's the thing he does best anyway. It's frustrating. It's like, dude, stop trying to be smarter than your britches, for God's sakes. Just do your job. Matt Burke, out of any coach on the staff, frustrates me the most with some of the things he says, for God's sakes. He acts like he's Bill Belichick. It's like, dude, you're like 35 and you got this weird beard and you're over here telling everybody how to play football. It's very odd sometimes. He's a cerebral coach, and I feel like he tries to outthink himself sometimes. Like he outthinks himself. He does some things way too exotic and like out there. It's very odd, but you know. Football. Listen, I really hope he plays mere free safety because, like I said, I do think. And I'm not saying he's a bad coach. He just frustrates me with some of the things he does. It just makes me upset sometimes. But I just hope he nails this one because I really do think he needs to play one position. I really do think that. Next question comes from Colin Klein. He says, how do you think Kiko will perform this year? I think way better than he did last year. If we stay healthy, we're not going to constantly move him around. I don't think he's going to have to guard tight ends this year. I think we have a lot more versatile, athletic players on this team than we did last year. So matchups will be easier for the defense, and I don't think Kiko's going to have to do that. So we'll see. But and he's apparently healthier than he was last year, so I think all of those things factor in. He lost a lot of weight to help him in coverage. So I think all of those things point to a better season for Kiko. Shannon Crawhorn. He says, what positions do you think Minka will get the most snaps at this year? I hope free safety. I don't really know. I would say probably, and I hate to say this, slot cornerback position, but I think nickel cornerback, because Matt Burke is he's so, like, listen, dude, we know Bobby McCain is a dominant slot player, okay? There's no reason to put him on the outside at all. Just keep him there. We have other corners that can do that sufficiently well at the number 2 cornerback spot. Xavier Howard, in my opinion, as far as things are going right now, and if the tail end of last year tells us anything, is a legitimate lockdown corner. The man had 3 interceptions in one day in practice, so I really hope Minka is a free safety this year. But if I was a betting man, I would say nickel cornerback, which frustrates me. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer Incorporated. He says Hall of Fame edition or standard edition. You're talking about Madden. I play an obscene amount of Madden, so I would say it doesn't matter, but I would say probably Hall of Fame edition because you get the game 3 days early. Not a Dolphins question. I'm sorry, everybody. The question is now over. Back to Dolphins. Corp Gamer Incorporated says, if Tannehill doesn't succeed this year, could Chris Greer? You mean Chris Greer? Will Greer being an option in next year's draft. Will Greer. Don't know enough about him, but if Tannehill doesn't work, then this team is going to finish. I mean, we're going to be drafting in like the crap in like top 3. So, and my favorite quarterback in next year's draft class is Drew Lock. So that's the guy I have watched the most out of all of them. The kid from Oregon, I don't know, I can't even remember his name, and obviously Will Greer. I don't know if that is Will Greer. I have too much going on right now, so I would have to look and go back and look at some of these players. But yeah, Drew Lock is my favorite quarterback. If that happened, Drew Lock would be my guy. Corporate Gamer again says, is our tight end situation this year still to worry? No, God no. You shouldn't have to worry about that at all this year. Larson designs lunar models. That's a weird name. Says, what games are you excited? I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't mean to offend you. What game? And I have a weird name on my YouTube. It doesn't matter. What games are you excited to see this year? All of the AFC East games. The game that I'm most excited about, I would just say, yeah, all the AFC East games. I think Tannehill, and especially since all these trash talking, like, don't know what the heck they're talking about, people in the media, that just really tick me off. Any national televised games, that's the game I'm gonna pinpoint and be like, dude, and hopefully I'm right, and I think I am. And I hope I am, but I really do think Tannehill is going to have a really good year, and I hope he sticks it to every idiot who has never seen him play in it. Any of these people talking about Tannehill, I would bet $1 million have not sat down and watched an entire game, him ever play an entire game from start to finish, and that's frustrating because some of the things that people say. Steve Smith on national television said the other day, why did they go out and get Bryce Petty and Brock? You know why we did, dude? Is because we cut Matt Moore. That's why we went out and got Brock Osweiler and Bryce Petty. Because we need a backup quarterback. It has nothing to do with Ryan Tannehill. And if you think any of those guys are on the same level of Tannehill, what the heck are we talking about right now? Like, it's just stuff like that. I really hope he sticks it to the man. So, I would say any nationally televised game in AFC East games. This next question comes from J. Rose. He says, would you be okay with Matt Moore coming back if Tannehill goes down again? At least he could win more than Brock and fails. Yeah, I would be okay with that, but it's too late for that. And again, this goes back to why did we not draft a rookie quarterback? Why? This is an issue. And listen, we're betting on Tannehill being healthy, and that's fine, but it's just stupid not to. It really is. It doesn't. I don't care if you have Brett Favre. They drafted Aaron Rodgers, and he was in his prime. He wasn't playing bad. They drafted Aaron Rodgers in the first round. It has nothing to do, and it says nothing about your starting quarterback. It's just smart. It's just a smart thing to do. Look what the 49ers did. They traded for Steve Young. They had Joe Montana on their team. I mean, why else? They just did it because they knew it was a smart thing to do. Not only if Joe Montana got hurt, but they have draft capital now, and they have a future quarterback if something happened to Joe Montana. It's smart, and we find ourselves in this situation now. We find ourselves with Brock Osweiler, who's a delusional quarterback who said, "Yeah, I think I've had a tremendous." Dude, do we need to show Brock what a tremendous camp is? And I don't mean to hate on anybody. I'm just saying. I mean, that's just stupid. You don't throw 5 picks in a few days and be like, "Yeah, dude, I've had a tremendous camp." That's just ridiculous. And that's what we're dealing with backup quarterbacks. This next question comes from Upper Echelon. And he says, which DT will be our most productive? I would look out for Vincent Taylor, but I would probably say Devon Godshaw. Upper Echelon, I hope I'm saying your name right. He says, do you think our kicker who we drafted is a future star? Don't know. Couldn't tell you, really. Have to wait till preseason. Upper Echelon says, starting linebackers after the 53-man cut. We've discussed that 1,000 times so far this podcast. I would probably say at the end of the day, and this is what I'm probably pulling for, Chase Allen, Kiko, and Raekwon. Upper Echelon says, will the Miami Dolphins trade a wide receiver away? No, I don't think so. But it does make you stop and think for a second. Andrew asks, will we ever see a 3-safety set? It's possible, and I actually wouldn't mind that, to be honest with you. And you know what, Matt? He could call it a 3-safety set all he wants. Every NFL team is doing it now. They're putting, Dan Buchanan, Mark Barron, all of these players play linebacker. Why we don't just play TJ at linebacker, I don't know. But as long as TJ is lining up in the box and we have Minka deep at the free safety position and Rashad somewhere, either deep or playing strong safety, doesn't really matter to me. As long as all 3 of those players are at the right positions and on the field at the same time, will we see it? I hope so, but I don't know. I think so, yeah. Jonathan Vegas says Charles Harris will be a starter at any point this yes or no. A starter? It doesn't matter in the scheme we're running, but he would have to beat out Wake and Robert, and I don't think we're gonna. I just off of principle alone, I don't think we would do that. I think Robert has the best chance to be dethroned, but yes or no, man. You're telling me yes or no right now. I would say yes. I think at some point you will see Charles Harris as a starter. Bill Dent says, hey, Skaggs, what do you think about our new defensive line coach? I really like him. I've always liked him. And he's really got our players playing at a high level. He's a good coach. He's coaching them well. Shannon, and you can see it in there and how everybody else is talking about him and their personality. It's nice to see. Shannon says, Skaggs, who will have more rushing yards this year, Kenyon in Miami or J.J. Johnson? That's not even close. Kenyon Drake. That's not even close. Shannon says, hey, Skaggs, what are the chances Danny Amendola ends up having a statistically better year than Jarvis Landry? Not good. Juice is a special. As much as I hate him now, and just because of all the things he's been saying, I still think he's a super special player. And I don't think Danny is as talented as Jarvis. He is in a very receiver-friendly scheme, and Hugh Jackson is a really good coach offensively. So I think Jarvis will get a lot of opportunities. And Danny, and it doesn't matter because I think we have more depth and just more versatility, I would say. Not more depth, but more versatility at the receiver position. So, no, I think Jarvis will probably have better stats. Shannon says, hey, Skaggs, did you hear that they are making a new beer in Miami called Landry Tears? I'm not joking here. It is made with sour grapes and a lot of salt to make it, quote, extra salty. Again, Skaggs, I'm not joking. So my question is, are you going to buy a 6-pack of Landry Tears? Probably not, no. And secondly, that's a beautiful thing. And God bless the man who made that. Bless him. Shannon says, hey, Skaggs, of all the new additions to this team, which new player do you think will make the biggest impact in 2018? Out of all the new additions, the biggest impact? Mike and Minka tied, because I think they're both equally super talented, and I think they're both going to impact the team greatly. And Kalen, too, if you want to throw him in there. But those two, I almost lay money. I'm guaranteeing those two are going to have big impacts. Lou says, will Gesicki be a bust? No, he's having a tremendous camp. This comes from Ron. He says, Well, this isn't a question. And then this next question comes from MC. He says, "Do you think our entire coaching staff can be the differences here in making the playoffs aside from the players?" We have a really good head coach in Adam Gase, and I truly do believe that. He's well loved across the league. Like, I think and I'll say this again, I really hope Steve Ross is lenient with whatever happens this season. The reason I'm saying that is because you never know in an NFL season. Even though I think this team is going to be a very good football team this year, patience is everything, and Adam Gase deserves it more than any head coach in the league, in my opinion. He deserves patience because he is such a good coach, and I really do believe it. I honestly believe that, and I think he's the best coach we've had in a very long time. Just from the way he approaches the game, the respect he commands, I really admire and appreciate. And it's unlike, we've had coaches that, to be honest with you, have been embarrassments and just people that I hate listening to talk about. Joe Philbin, Cam Cameron, we've had some bad head coaches throughout the years, and it's frustrating. Some of them have been super frustrating. So Adam Gase is one of the guys that I can actually get behind. I do think we have great coaches in place. We have great players in place, and we should be able to get it done this year, but I hope patience will be, and it's not even the question, do I think it will be the difference? I don't think it will be the difference. I think it's definitely going to help, but I do think we have a good team, and a good quarterback, and a good everything to have a successful 2018 season, so I think a combination of everything will be the difference. So yeah, that's going to be it, guys. That has been your podcast for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys listened all the way through, I really appreciate that. If you did, and if you're new here, please support the content any way you possibly can. If you're old here, we've had a lot of hardcore fans throughout the years here, and I really appreciate you guys continuing to be active in the community on this channel, to ask questions, and continue to support and spread this podcast to more Dolphins listening ears, because it is much appreciated. That's how you say that word. So I'm Skaggs83, and I cannot wait to see you guys next week.